Coming up today, 10 lawmakers from Korea's ruling and opposition parties are set to visit Korea's eastern Dokdo Island to mark Liberation Day. President Park Geunhye will give a speech to mark Korea's Liberation Day in the coming hours. She's expected to emphasize the need for national unity amid testing political and economic times. Plus, it's day 9 of the Rio Olympics. We have the latest on Team Korea and the rest of the action from the Brazilian host city. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Monday, August 15th here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, lawmakers from Korea's ruling and opposition parties will visit the nation's easternmost islets of Dokdo on Monday to mark Korea's Liberation Day. It is part of efforts to counter Japan's false claims to sovereignty over the islets. Park Geunhye starts us off.
10 lawmakers from the ruling Saenuri Party, the main opposition Minju Party of Korea, and minor opposition People's Party are scheduled to visit Dokdo Island on Monday to mark National Liberation Day on the 71st anniversary of Korea's independence. The legislators are expected to offer words of encouragement to the Dokdo Guards, the police force that protects the islets. They'll also inspect facilities there and meet with civic groups also visiting Dokdo. The lawmakers criticized the Japanese government Sunday for expressing disapproval of the politician's trip through the Japanese embassy in Seoul on Saturday.
It's very natural for South Korean parliamentarians to visit Dokdo, which is South Korean territory. It's disrespectful for the Japanese Foreign Ministry to tell us not to go.
Saenuri Party lawmaker Na Kyung-won, who is heading Monday's delegation, said she's appalled by the complaint and that Tokyo is overreacting. Na, who's the chairwoman of Parliament's Foreign Affairs and Unification Committee, urged a review of Korea's, quote, silent diplomacy when it comes to the Dokdo issue, since Tokyo shows no sign of backing down from its false claim that Dokdo, which it calls Takeshima, belongs to Japan. For its part, Seoul's foreign ministry said it has again made clear to Tokyo that Dokdo is South Korean territory by international law and on the basis of geography and history. Monday's trip will be the first time in 3 years that sitting lawmakers have made an official visit to Dokdo, as long as the weather and sea conditions cooperate. Kwon-soa, Arirang News.
President Park Geunhye is set to address the nation later on this Liberation Day in Korea. In her 4th such speech, she's expected to focus on national pride and unity. An official from the presidential office of Cheongwade says the message will focus on reminding the Korean people of the remarkable accomplishments that enable Korea to make a dramatic transition from absolute poverty to global leadership in a great many fields. President Park is also set to ask for the nation's support in improving national defense, especially against the growing threat of North Korea, pointing out the necessity of deploying the THAAD missile defense system to the south. Officials say the president will also likely touch upon the need to build on the momentum of a landmark deal with Japan, under which Tokyo will provide funds for a foundation dedicated to the Korean victims of Japanese wartime sexual slavery. Now, locals weren't the only ones fighting for Korea's independence from Japan's colonial rule. Foreigners were also working for Korea's cause. And one of these unsung heroes was a medical missionary who showed Japan's wrongdoings to the world through the power of photography. Kim Hyun-bin introduces us to Dr. Frank William Schofield.
A Canadian family is admiring the view of the Han River in Seoul. They are the descendants of Dr. Frank William Schofield, a foreigner who took an active role in the movement for Korea's independence from Japanese imperial rule. Dr. Schofield's grandson, granddaughter, and great-granddaughter are in Seoul to commemorate his legacy.
It's a great grandfather. We knew he was quite important, but we didn't know everything about him. All of that came to light after his passing.
Dr. Schofield's photos of Korea's March 1st independence movement in 1919 will serve as important documentation for the world of Japan's brutal occupation. A month after those historic demonstrations, he also photographed the aftermath of the Cheomni massacre, where Japanese imperial forces slaughtered some 30 villagers in Cheomni in an effort to put down the independence movement spreading throughout the country. The visit to Seoul by Dr. Schofield's family is especially meaningful this year, as 2016 marks the 100th anniversary of the doctor-turned-activist's first visit to Korea. When he died in 1970, he became the first foreigner to be buried in Korea's national cemetery.
And I meet more and more people, like Dean says, that either were touched by Dr. Schofield. As a family member, I'm starting to feel more like, like this is where he was meant to be, and this is where he wanted to be, and this is a place where he called home.
This year, the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs has invited more than 40 descendants of independence fighters to attend commemorations in Korea, and plans to continue to expand the program so their sacrifices will never be forgotten. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
So let's take a look at the latest from the 2016 Olympics in Rio. And Korea has sealed the third group seed in women's volleyball. Korea defeated Cameroon on Sunday with a set score of 3-0. 25-16, 25-22, 25-20 in Pool A. With the result, Korea heads to the quarterfinals on Tuesday along with the US, the Netherlands, Serbia and China. It's highly likely Korea will take on the Netherlands or Serbia in the quarterfinal, and Brazil or the US if they make the semi-finals. Now moving on to women's gymnastics, and Team USA's Simone Biles won her third gold in Rio in the women's vault on Sunday. The first-time Olympian, who needed to average more than 15.253 to beat Maria Paseka of Russia, finished the event with a score of 15.966. On average from her two vaults. In the previous events, the 19-year-old claimed gold in the team competitions as well as the all-around. Biles is eyeing to sweep all 5 of the competitions she's taking part in. Her last 2 individual events, the beam and the floor, are scheduled for Monday and Tuesday local time. Now, British golfer Justin Rose has won the gold medal in men's golf following the sport's return to the Olympics for the first time in more than a century. The 2013 US Open champion shot a dramatic birdie on the 18th, helping him to a final round of 67 to finish 16 under par on what was a gusty day. This year's medalists were all PGA Tour winners. Henrik Stenson of Sweden claimed silver, and Matt Kuchar of the United States got bronze. South Korea's An Byung-hoon and Wang Jong-hoon finished 8th and 14th respectively. With that, let's take a look at the current medal standings and some of the upcoming Olympic action. Now going back to the rest of the day's news, and President Park Geunhye is expected to partly reshuffle her cabinet as early as this week to create fresh momentum for the remaining 18 months or so of her term. According to an official from the top office, the president may replace up to 6 ministers before the National Assembly's regular session starts in September. The candidates have reportedly already been vetted, leaving the president alone to make her final decision. Observers say any new ministers would most likely be civil servants to ease their confirmation by the National Assembly. This would be her first cabinet reshuffle since December of last year. Now in economic news, Korea's national budget next year may, for the first time, exceed 400 trillion won. That's about 362 billion US dollars. That's roughly double the amount it was back in 2005. Officials say the estimate was based on the government and ruling party's recent agreement to increase the 2017 budget by 3 to 4% from this year. Key contributors to the rise include programs to improve youth employment, the chronically low birth rate and the aging society here in Korea. The amount set aside for health, welfare and jobs is expected to hit a record of over $118 billion. Now, facing an ever-growing nuclear and missile threat from North Korea, South Korea is devising a wartime strategy to take out the regime's missile bases simultaneously, and this includes deploying more indigenously made missiles. Our Connie Kim has the details.
In the face of North Korea's growing nuclear threat, South Korea plans to significantly increase its arsenal of Hyunmoo missiles, which in the event of conflict would be used to simultaneously destroy the North's ballistic missile bases. Exactly how many will be deployed has not been specified, but a South Korean government official said Sunday that Seoul's plan to establish what it calls a triple defense posture includes the addition of more surface-to-surface Hyunmoo 2A and 2B missiles, which have a range of up to 500 kilometers, and Hyunmoo 3 cruise missiles with a target range of 1,000 kilometers. The idea of establishing a triple defense posture was first mentioned by Defense Minister Han Min-gu last month. The idea is to neutralize Pyongyang's missile threat in 3 ways: the Hyunmoo missiles, which target the North's missile bases, the Korean air and missile defense system, which is designed to shoot down missiles in flight, and the so-called kill chain, which would preemptively destroy missiles before they're launched. The plan comes as North Korea is believed to have up to 1,000 missiles it can fire from its 3 missile belts. The first belt with up to 600 Scud missiles, the second with some 300 Nodong missiles having a range of up to 1,300 kilometers, and the third belt, which is armed with ICBMs and up to 50 intermediate-range Musudan missiles. South Korea has been trying harder to deter and respond to Pyongyang's missile provocations, especially in the light of the North's seemingly endless drive for nuclear weapons. Next month, South Korea will equip its guided bombs with supposedly jam-proof GPS technology from the U.S. military to more effectively counter the North's long-range multiple rockets. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, in health and technology news, Korean researchers have developed a way to mass-produce customized cells that can attack specific cancer cells. And unlike existing methods, the treatment has very few side effects. And the finding is expected to reduce the pain cancer patients have to go through as they try to get well. Our Park Geunhye tells us more.
When a virus enters the body, it responds by activating immune cells. Dendritic cells initiate the response by identifying the harmful cells and alerting T cells. This drives the mass production of T cells, which then destroy the virus. Cancer, however, starts with changes in existing cells, which makes it difficult for the dendritic cells to recognize them. But now a team of Korean researchers has developed a nanoparticle called encapsulin that helps the dendritic cells identify cancer cells better. The researchers attach skin cancer markers to the encapsulin, which is similar in shape and size to viruses. When mice with skin cancer received injections of the nanoparticles, growth of the cancer cells was inhibited.
Dendritic cells effectively identify the encapsulin with the cancer markers and eat them. They then deliver the cancer cells to the T cells, which destroy them.
By switching markers, researchers hope to create tailored immune cells for other types of cancers as well. Since anti-cancer treatments using immune cells have fewer side effects compared to pharmaceutical treatments, the finding is expected to be a huge help to cancer patients. Park Geunhye, Arirang News.
Now, Korea will experience another day of scorching hot weather on this Monday. With the exception of Korea's northeastern Gangwon-do province, the entire nation is under heat wave advisories right now. On Sunday afternoon, the Korea Meteorological Administration downgraded heat wave warnings in Seoul, Gyeonggi and Gyeongsang-buk-do and Gangwon-do provinces to advisories, meaning that it expected daytime highs to drop below 35 degrees Celsius and not really get above that anymore this summer. However, those advisories could be upgraded to warnings yet again later on this Monday, Liberation Day here in Korea. Sporadic showers along the eastern coast with up to 50 millimeters forecast in some areas as well, so keep an umbrella handy if you can. And ozone levels will be high in Seoul, Gyeonggi-do province the city of Sejong and also the southeastern city of Busan. Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you as always for watching. Just a reminder that we'll be back at 10 a.m. Korea time with our live coverage of President Park Geunhye's National Liberation Day speech. To all of our Korean viewers out there, do have a nice and enjoyable National Liberation Day. I'll be back at 10 a.m. So until then, goodbye.